call this meeting of New Iberia City Council to order. We have the prayer and the pledge led by Councilman Calvin Begno.
Bow your heads. Dear Lord, we come to you tonight to do the bidding for the city of New Iberia as representatives for the people. We ask that you guide us in our deliberations and watch over us and allow us to make the decisions that are in the best interest of all the people. We ask this through your name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America.
Roll call.
Councilmember Natalie Roban.
Present.
Councilmember Peggy Giraffe.
Present.
Councilmember Robert Swear.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Dan Doyle.
Here.
Councilmember David Merrill.
Here.
Councilmember Raymond Lewis. And Councilmember Calvin Bagno.
Here.
Mayor Carr, you have a quorum.
Thank you. The first agenda item is public comment, and before we begin, I'd ask everyone to please silence their phones. This is an opportunity for the members of the audience to address the city council on any agenda item. However, there's no discussion. It's your opportunity to express your opinions and concerns. And the first person I have that would like to address the council this evening is Mr. Howard Kingston, and he wants to address the council concerning agenda item 7. It's 6, yeah. Well, 6 or 7, it's the ordinance, concerning the parking on Main Street. Oh, it is 7, you're right, it's 7.
Thank you. Good evening, council. Will be discussing and voting on an ordinance this evening to limit parking on Main Street to 2 hours. When my wife and I opened up Books Along the Test 25 years ago, there were only 3 other businesses open in our block. Parking wasn't a problem in those days, but still, we knew that if we kept that spot open on Main Street, if we didn't park there, customers could park there. So we got permission from a business owner, our neighbor, to park in the lot behind us, and he okayed that. Recently, though, all the buildings are full, new businesses are starting up, things are looking good downtown, a lot of investment going on. Some businesses and their employees are parking on Main Street, not just for a little while, but for all day. What this does is just ties up the parking for customers. We did a rough count one day. The parking spot just in front of our store turned over 9 times when there's no one parked there all day. That's not just my customers, that's my neighbors' customers, that's the customers across the street. That's money flowing in and gone, and someone else can come in. What we're asking is just a 2-hour limit. We feel this is fair for all the stores. The customers can come in and park there and do their shopping. They have 2 hours. There's plenty of time to shop in all the stores in this block or the next block. We don't want to hurt anybody, but the people who are parking there are not the customers. We want this just to save these spots for customers, especially with Christmas season coming on. Usually it's a big shopping time for our business, I know, and I think the other businesses also. And we just wanted to make it as easy as possible for people to come in and shop in downtown and then go on about their business. The idea, when this started several months ago, there were 4 vehicles parked on outside the street all day long, and our business just tumbled. There was just nothing coming in and out. It's improved since then, but to keep it from happening again is why we would like to see this ordinance passed. It's just a business killer when people are parked there all day long. And like I said, we're not trying to hurt any businesses, but these are employees, and there is ample parking along in different places in the plaza, and then next to the Evangeline Theater now, and there's parking in back with certain other businesses, and we just felt like this would be a good deal to have in place for the future. Thank y'all for considering it.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming here this evening. Ms. Eileen Landry would like to speak on the same issue. It's agenda item 7. It's concerning the ordinance that we are voting on this evening on the parking on Main Street.
Good evening. I'm Eileen Landry, and I own Eccentrics on Main Street. I've been there for 14 years. And the lack of parking has definitely affected the revenue of the stores along Main Street. A lot of my customers are elderly. They are unable to walk from Bulani Plaza. And I don't know how many times someone has come in the store and said, Eileen, I would have stopped to buy something from you, but there was no place to park. And, you know, I agree with Howard with all of what he said. All we're asking is for 2 hours. We're not trying to keep anyone from going downtown or being able to park. We just want it to be fair to the customers to be able to shop. And that's, you know, I've been there a long time, but it definitely has affected the revenue. And I appreciate you considering voting for it.
Thank you very much. We appreciate both of you taking the time to come this evening. The next person to address the council is John McAllister, and he would like to speak concerning agenda item 6, which is the 4% increase for city employees.
Good afternoon. I've been a city employee for about 4 years now. And over the course of the 4 years, I've realized the money's been tight. We've had to make cuts. We've had to do things that have cost us as a whole, as a city, as an entity. But me personally, I believe that this 4% CPI is much needed by many of the people that are in the room with me. It's something that we have to rely on because we can't keep up with cost of living by what we make alone. We need this. This is something that I see hard men and women working every day for. Something that we all have to struggle to get. And again, I understand how tight money is. I understand we've had to make budget cuts. I understand there's no revenue. I understand that. But in my opinion, if you keep your workers happy, you have more to show for it. You've got harder workers. You don't have a low morale. And you've got people that are willing to come to work every day and take care of the things that you, as council members, need taken care of for your districts. In my case, personally, I have 3 sick children and a wife with stage 4 cancer. And in my end, that's hard on what I make. And I go to work every day with my head held high, proud that I work for the city of New Iberia, proud for the town that I work for. But at the same time, I'm faced with these complications as how am I going to afford this medical bill? How am I going to pay for this medicine? How am I going to take care of somebody who can't work? How am I going to take care of 2 daughters who have urea cycle disorder and need liver transplants? Or have a daughter that needs a tumor removed from her neck? Or a wife with stage 4 cancer who we don't know whether will pull through or not. And those are my challenges. On top of having to come to work every day. On top of having to be away from my family for that amount of time while I'm at work. And these are things that I need. Things that I need my family to be okay with. But at the same time, I try to speak for everybody because I see hard-working men and women out there every day, cutting the grass, keeping up with everything that needs to be done, keeping this city, New Iberia, without letting it fall apart. And I believe that we deserve this. I believe it was already owed to us as it was. And I believe we deserve it. We'll work for you if you work with us. That's what we want. It's not that hard, and I understand the budget cuts make it difficult. But if it's already there, at least let us work for you and do something back for us. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
It's very well said. I'm proud that you work for the city of New Iberia. Mr. Joe Livingston would like to speak concerning the same topic.
How you doing, Mayor, Council? My name is Joe Livingston. I've been with the city for going on 19 years. As a supervisor, I watch the guys work. I watch the guys do their jobs. And if y'all take this 4% for these guys, the morale gonna be down. They talk to me every day. They tell me how they barely living on what they getting with the city. They love their jobs. They love what they're doing. But they need the city council and the mayor, who are always with us, to look out for them this time, because the 2% that is owed to the workers was promised to them last year, and ask the council and the mayor to please consider this 4% raise for the workers, because they're your backbone. They're the ones that go out late at night cutting trees down, going to parades while everybody having fun, they're cleaning up. While everybody's sleeping at night, we going cutting trees down. We going to do sewer work. You have to consider the workers when y'all make this decision, council, because we're here for everybody. We want the city to be together with their decision to give us this 4%. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. The next agenda item is acceptance of the minutes of the September 16th meeting, 2014. Oh, I'm sorry, amended minutes, and those were the minutes that we did not vote on because they needed to be amended to include the turning off the television, if you remember. Motion by Mr. Bagno. Second?
Second.
By Ms. Robin. Is there any discussion? Any objection? No objection, motion carries. The next is acceptance of the minutes of the last meeting was October 7th, 2014, as published on October 16th, 2014. Motion by Mr. Bagno, second by Mr. Doyle. Is there any discussion? Any objection? No objection, motion carries. The next agenda item is agenda item 3, and it's a proclamation for 2014 Red Ribbon Campaign. Ms. Darlene French is here from the school board, and I'll read the proclamation and give it to you and let you speak.
Great.
Whereas the problems associated with illegal use of drugs have become prevalent in every community regardless of size and location. And whereas the United States has now turned its energies towards the battle against drugs in its own neighborhoods. And whereas it is imperative that visible, unified preventative education efforts by community members be launched to reduce the demand for drugs. And whereas success will not occur overnight, patience and continued commitment to drug education and prevention are imperative. And whereas the 2014 Red Ribbon theme will be Respect Yourself, Respect Your Health, Be Drug-Free, to focus on the importance of strengthening parent-community networks and creating an environment in which our youth may live a healthy, drug-free life. Therefore, be it resolved that the City of New Iberia does hereby proclaim October 24th through the 31st, 2014 as Red Ribbon Week, and encourages all citizens to participate in drug prevention activities, making a visible statement that we are strongly committed to a drug-free community. Be it therefore resolved that the City of New Iberia encourages all citizens to pledge, respect yourself, your health, be drug-free. Thank you, and I have this for you. And then I know Ms. French has some comments for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council, and citizens of the City of New Iberia. Actually, Red Ribbon Week has been around for a very long time, and I think it should be around so many more years because this is one thing that we can give our kids, and that's support in trying to be drug-free. We all know, and actually when I talk to kids, I had 8 drug hearings last week. I talk to kids, I tell them, you don't understand when you go out into the world of work that being drug-free is going to be one of the main things that you need. You need your skills, but you need to be drug-free. There's no job that you can go into where if you use drugs of any kind, that you can remain on the job if it's found out that you use drugs. So with your help in letting these kids know and your support, we have to be visible. We have to let kids know. We have to make a stand to let kids know. And that's not just young kids. I'm talking kids of all ages, even into their 20s. They're still kids to me. We have to let them know that this is one important part of your life. That's one of the reasons this theme was chosen. Respect yourself, respect your health, be drug-free. There were a lot of things behind that, not just being drug-free, but violence-free, a number of things behind that. And so as representing the school board, that is our objective. We constantly strive to educate kids in this area, and we ask the community to help us to support that view. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming. We always appreciate you being here.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having me.
Thank you. I'd like to ask the council at this time to do something a little out of order. I'd like to ask if you would mind expanding the agenda at this point to allow me to read another proclamation. Ms. Drack phoned us. inadvertently, no one had called us to do a proclamation for Breast Cancer Month. And so we prepared one, and we have one. Mr. Rackett asked us to do it, if you have no objection. Okay. Whereas this year, more than 230,000 women and 2,000 men will be diagnosed with breast cancer in America. The heartache and the pain of this disease will touch too many of our mothers, fathers, daughters, and sisters, and too many families will bear these burdens. During National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we recognize all those who know the anguish of breast cancer, and we redouble our efforts to improve care and bring attention to this disease. When breast cancer is caught early, treatments work best and survival rates increase. That is why all women and men should be familiar with the risk factors and symptoms of this disease. Whereas this month, as we honor those lost to breast cancer, let us join with the loved ones who celebrate their memory and the patients who battle this disease every day, as well as our nation's advocates, medical researchers, and healthcare providers. Now therefore, I, Mayor Hilda Curry, do hereby proclaim October 2014 as National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and encourage citizens, government agencies, private businesses, nonprofit organizations, and all other interested groups to join in activities that will increase awareness of what Americans can do to prevent breast cancer awareness, to promote Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And if y'all could just give this to Mr. Radcliffe.
And we ask this in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next agenda item is agenda item 4, and it's a certificate of achievement. And I'd like to ask Jimmy Landry, and, well, all of the, Liz, and also Dennis to come forward. And I'm gonna read what's on the plaque. Certificate of Achievement is hereby presented to the City of New Iberia. Becoming ICC certified means professionals have demonstrated their code knowledge and skills, as well as their ability to apply those skills on the job. Departments with 100% ICC certified staff demonstrate their commitment to protecting the public health, safety, and welfare of the people who live and work in their community. This achievement also recognizes your commitment to excellence in the industry and advancing your career throughout education. Congratulations again for being recognized for your superior efforts. Together, we will build the best communities ever. And this is congratulations, and it's from a certificate from ICC. And it's congratulating our department because everyone is fully certified. And these are you 3 individuals that work in the permit office that have worked so hard to get their certifications. So thank you very much. No comment. Okay. All right. We have a resolution, Madam Clerk, 5A.
A resolution awarding bid to MP Dumasil Construction Company for the Henry Street Inceptor project.
Do we have a motion? Motion by Mr. Bagno, second by Mr. Merrill. Is there any discussion?
Yes. Question.
Mr. Palumbo's here.
A couple years ago, we had, on Henry Street, there was one house that had a little problem with their sewer line draining. It was a backfall or something. Is this gonna repair that? Is this what this is for?
It probably was already repaired if you hadn't
Oh,
heard from it since
I haven't,
then.
yeah, I hadn't heard in a while, so I'm
Me
assuming it
neither,
has
so
been.
let's assume it's repaired.
but-
No,
but-
this should not affect that at all. We're collecting some existing flow and
Okay.
intercepting some of the flow. Basically, in a nutshell, everything from Johnson Alley, Hortense, and the other streets that go all the way up to,
Okay.
what is that next one? Is it Nita?
Mhm.
Okay, we're gonna intercept that, all that flow on Henry Street. Typically, that flow would continue down to Front Street and go to the Front Street pump station.
Okay.
We're gonna actually intercept that flow, put another pump station on Henry Street, and send that all the way to the McElhenney pump station. This is a result of the consent decree, and all the rehab efforts that we've done to date, still haven't, given the results we needed to get, so, this is a last-ditch effort to take care of that
I
mandate.
didn't call you early to find out, but I
That-
do
that's
appreciate
okay.
your explanation. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that has questions for Mr. Palumbo? I'd ask you to vote your machines. Thank you, Mr. Palumbo. Motion carries unanimously. The next agenda item, Madam Clerk, 5B.
A resolution awarding bids for cleaning and maintenance supplies, high calcium quicklime pebble, liquid chlorine and sulfur dioxide, various chloride solution bioxide AE30, road materials, sanitary sewer materials.
These are the 6 month bids that we present to you every 6 months. Motion by Mr. Doyle. Second by Mr. Merrill. Is there any discussion? Any objection? No objection, motion carries. The next resolution, Madam Clerk.
A resolution authorizing Mayor Hilda D. Curry to enter into an intergovernmental agreement between Iberia Parish Government and the City of New Iberia for a stormwater management program.
Do we have a motion?
Move.
Motion by Mr. Bagno.
Second.
Second by Ms. Jurack. Is there any discussion? Any objection? No objection, motion carries. The next agenda item is a resolution. Let me see, hold on. This is a resolution from the Civil Service Board. Be it resolved that the Municipal Government Employees Civil Service Board strongly recommends that the City of New Iberia Board of Trustees approves the 4% general increase for fiscal year 2014-15, as was recommended by the City of New Iberia Administration and approved by the Municipal Government Employees Civil Service Board at its July 21st, 2014 meeting, to suffice the obligation of the city administration to make up the loss of the 2% for the 2012-13 fiscal year, now that funds are available. And Mr. Cohart is here. He's the chairman of the board, if any of you have any questions. We need a motion.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Merrill.
To approve, second. It's not a
Isn't our
resolution yet.
resolution?
For us.
Wait, what do you mean?
It's their resolution.
It's a resolution. I'm sorry. It's a resolution from the board.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So
This is a
informational
resolution from
purposes.
the board, and we don't have to act on it, I'm sorry. I don't know if there's any discussion concerning it, and Mr. Cohart is here in case you have questions. No discussion, okay. Move on to agenda item 7, it's an ordinance adoption. At this time, we have to open the public hearing, but read the ordinance first, please.
An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of New Iberia, Chapter 86, Traffic and Vehicle, Article 4, Stopping, Standing, Parking, Division 3, Prohibitions from Specific Streets, Section 86 through 186, Parking time limited on certain streets.
Okay, at this time, we need a motion to open the
Motion.
public hearing. Was that
Motion by Mr. Lewis.
Mr. Lewis?
Second.
Second by Ms. Broban. Is there any problem with opening the public hearing, any objection? Is there anyone from the audience who would like to speak concerning this ordinance adoption? No one from the audience would like to speak, so at this time, we have a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Merrill.
Mr. Lewis.
I'm sorry, Mr. Lewis.
Second.
Second by Ms. Roban. Okay, let's go back now for adoption. 7B. Do you want to read it again? Is it necessary?
Motion.
We need a motion
By
by
Mr. Lewis.
Mr. Lewis,
Second.
second by Mr. Swear. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Mr.
Well,
Okay,
Mr.
Mr.
Lewis.
Bagno and then Mr. Lewis,
Okay.
or
Mayor,
vice
I was,
versa?
thank you, I was in the meeting when we discussed this with some of the business owners from downtown, and I'm not against any of this. I think we need to look at what we've done though, and I've got a couple questions. One is, if I'm not mistaken, we've cordoned off, I think, 12 parking spaces on each side, which is like 24 in front and 24 on this
You're
side.
talking about Bulini Plaza.
Bulini Plaza only, right. That's a lot of parking spots. Well, went and looked at it, that's, 48 parking spots. I know a lot of businesses that do business downtown, I don't know that we need to cordon off 48 of those spots. I was hoping we could maybe reduce to 6 on each side, which would then be half of that, 24 spots. But, and hopefully we can maybe amend it to do that. I'm not in disagreement with it. I think we need to do something, but I'm just thinking 12 on each lane would be a lot. The second point to that is, question is this gonna affect the Slyman Theater or Cafe des Amis
No.
parking? Because those are
No.
both city parking lots.
No,
Okay,
just-
okay.
Mr.
All right, so
Lewis?
it's off for
Just the
discussion.
parking in front of them, but not the parking.
Not lots.
In the actual lots.
Okay, that's what.
Did you
okay.
want to make a motion then to amend
Uh,
it, or?
Can we
You wanna discuss it?
Well, I think,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, we can discuss first. Mr. Lewis?
You know, actually, it's in downtown District 5. It's a sad day when we come, when neighbors can't be neighbors and respect each other's right as businesses to exist. We want everybody to come here, but we want you to respect your neighbors as well. Any new business is an added tax base to the city. But it's a sad day when we have to come to this, but this needs to be done. I have people that's been here a long, long time operating business, and they're not against new businesses. It's just sad, new business can't be good neighbors. We wouldn't even be dealing with this, quite frankly. And that's all I have to say on that matter.
Thank you.
Sad day.
Ms. Roban?
I wasn't gonna have much to say, but when Mr. Vagno brought up the reducing the number of slots, I, for one, it's my opinion that we should not do that and that we should leave it the way the ordinance is written. This is something I've actually been hearing about since before I was ever involved in city government. And I'm not blaming anyone because I'm definitely a big fan of continuing education, but since the school, the little career campus opened on Main Street, people had been complaining. It's just when they're in their sessions and they have a ton of people and they're in there, 4 hours a day, 5 hours a day, and they taking up all the front of the parking lot and all the spots in front of the stores, it does inconvenience the stores and it inconveniences the restaurants, and that's something I've been hearing complaints on for years. And when I first got elected, I remember we had talked about meters, and it was like, that's a lot of money and stuff, and so I think this is a good avenue to go. But I definitely think we should go the way it is written, because, like I said, I support the school, but it's no one's fault that we have limited parking downtown. I mean, the downtown area is what it is. We can't build a parking garage in the middle of it, but I think we should leave it the way it is personally. That's it for me.
Anyone else? Mr. Rack?
I've been here quite a long time, and I never experienced this until we put those planters up there. The planters delete other cars from parking, and I think people think they have a private parking, I guess in front of their business. I don't know what it is, but it's hard for us to say who park where, how long they park. I don't know how we're gonna handle it, but I just hope that the city do a study and do it right this time, so we don't run nobody away. We definitely do not wanna run nobody away. And we don't wanna say, well, you can't park there for 3-4 hours, cause sometime I go in the stores, I stay quite a long time. I move slow, and sometimes I gotta sit a while, my legs hurt. So I may stay a little longer, not intending to limit nobody else shopping, but it's gonna be kinda hard, I think, I'm saying before time, to monitor this and tell who can park where. And the building came there, but then the street was there before all of them. We put those planters, we have side street parking, which maybe we ought to have parking on both sides on some of these streets. That would help some people be able to park, cause I've went to the Slyman Theater, And, I think it was for Miss Brown graduation, and I had to apologize why I didn't go. We had to go so far to park till I just went home. Understand what I'm saying? And this didn't affect business in the daytime. It affect nighttime as well as daytime. So I think maybe we wouldn't have, since we so congested on Main Street, maybe parking on both sides or in some of the alley, park on one side of the street. You know what I'm saying? Because we got one way on some of them alleys, but maybe we could make parking on one side. I'm just saying, offering this, because we have a lot of people that visit downtown, visitors and different things, you know, and when they come, they take up the whole, you know, like we have the markets, different people come from out of town and they park. It limited us parking, so maybe we ought to consider and do a thorough study on what could we do to help alleviate this, like where the specialty store used to be, I'm naming the street because that'd been before some of y'all time. But there's no parking on either side, you follow me? So maybe we need to look into some of this where we could do one side parking. That's just me, okay?
Mr. Swear?
It's always been a problem. I worked at Morgan and Lindsay years ago, and it's always been a problem over there. Mr. Robichaud always made sure we always parked across St. Peter Street toward the courthouse and all that and everything. But I'd rather see the 12 spots stay on Boudinais Plaza, try it out, especially with the holidays coming up. They're gonna be busy up there, and they need the parking, because every time the holidays came around, we was real busy. So I'd rather see if it's gonna work good for the holidays, and if it does, then we can always come back and change it. But if you don't have them, then you gotta come back and adopt another ordinance again and amend it. So I'd rather see it stay at 12.
Mr. Doyle?
Mayor, I hope, and maybe since we're doing budget also, is that we can put some money in the budget to get the signs out and to maybe paint those spots a different color. Some, maybe a bright yellow, something to identify the difference between that. You know, when you drive up, if it's a different appearance, people are gonna look. And maybe we should think about doing that, because I think we're lucky to have this problem, but we need the tax base, and if people don't shop here, then we can't get the base. So I think we should leave it at this point, and if we don't need it, we can always amend it. But I think we need to identify these spots to let the public know that it is a special, space when you do park there, and get the business owners involved to monitor, especially with their workers. So we might want to send
Yeah,
each
we had
business
planned
owner
on-
at least the ordinance, so they will know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Almero?
Yeah, I think so, that we ought to leave the parking spots and leave everything the way it is too. I had a business downtown, I closed it in July, I was there for 4 years, right across from Boudinais Plaza. I had a lot of problems with parking, with people. I had a lot of people that wanted to come to my store, but with different events was going on, they would pass me by. I didn't want to close my store, but finances and revenues was pretty bad, I had to close my store. But parking downtown has been a problem the whole time when I was there. And then a lot of times you have different events go on, even if some people want to shop downtown, if they see all these parking spots already filled, it makes them pass it up and keep going. So we need the parking spots downtown. I don't think we need to really alter anything, but I agree with one thing Ms. Jirac said, we really need to look at how we're gonna do it. Because 2 hours may seem like it's okay, but they have people, if they walk way down the street to another store on the other end of town, and they stay in there a little too long, 2 hours may come up on them, and their time may be up. So you can't justify 2 hours just like that. You have to really look at it, and really look at it real well to see would it be justifiable. Maybe it might be 3 hours might be better. But I don't think 2 hours is gonna be something that you can look at and say, that's enough time for somebody to shop and they gotta be in their car and leave, unless you have parking meters. And when you got parking meters, there's a time. Either you get back or you get a ticket, simple as that. We don't have a driving, big downtown deal like in Lafayette. Lafayette has a parking garage. You don't have to pay for it. You can park and stay up there as long as you want. And you can come down and walk to your car. We don't have that availability. So we have to be able to look at it and make sure that we monitor it correctly. Thank you.
Are there any further comments? Mr. Lewis?
No, Mayor, I'm not gonna comment. But, yes, I will. It wasn't just the nursing or academy down the street, the school. it wasn't just that. When you have, I want to be nice, I didn't take my medicine tonight before I came here. But when you have individuals, as I said, that disrespect their neighbors, and let me be a little more specific, they take their menu of the day of what they're doing and throw it in a parking spot where nobody can get in, nobody can get out. That's the kind. And I know the school, the academy, I've seen it. But we also had that kind of stuff going on. You know, be a good neighbor. We appreciate any business coming to downtown or anywhere in our city, but be a good neighbor. And that just hasn't happened.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to comment before we? Okay, you want to vote your machine? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it. The next agenda item is our final budget amendment for 2013-14. Madam Clerk, an ordinance.
Final budget, an ordinance amending the ordinances levying certain taxes, appropriating the funds necessary to defray the expenses and liabilities of the city of New Iberia for the year ending 2013-2014.
We have a motion.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Merrill. Second?
Second.
Mr. Rack? Mr. Rack?
I said,
We got her.
I raised my hand this time.
All right, I don't know if you would like for Ms. Segura to go over it, if you've reviewed it, if you have questions, but we can go through it. This is amending the budget that we're currently in to kind of clean things up before the end of the year, and we're gonna adopt a new budget tonight. So, Ms. Segura, do you want to just go through each one quickly?
Sure. The first page of the amendment is for general fund, and basically this is to adjust the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries grant to reduce the revenues and to reduce the expenses in accordance with what was actually spent and earned on that particular project. I did put a memo at your spaces tonight with respect to general fund. There is an additional adjustment that needs to be recorded with respect to general fund, and it's on the homeless shelter grant. We did receive some revenue for that particular project on Friday. So I apologize for not included in the actual adjustment pages that were sent to you with your packet, but I didn't receive it until on Friday. So basically what that one is it's, I think, $9,000 worth of more of revenue and expense. So it's basically just a wash through on the, a pass through on the general fund side. On Parks and Recreation, we are adjusting a number of the revenue accounts to reflect more accurately what the actual revenues and expenditures are in those particular, in that particular fund. Just off the top of my head, we had already talked at the budget meeting with respect to the summer program, the summer camp program. We had originally adopted a budget with, I want to say, about $75,000 worth of revenue. The actual revenue from that particular program was closer to like $26,000. So this budget amendment is actually bringing that revenue line item down and also reducing the expenses, because what we didn't bring in, we didn't spend on that particular program. Oh, another thing just to note in Parks and Recreation.
Hold up 1 minute. Mr. Dahl has a question.
Kimberly, but on the program itself, we're talking back with the summer program, we did end up come up with a surplus, not a,
On the summer camp program, it was about a break even.
okay, so we didn't lose any money.
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
No, sir. And just another note in the Parks and Recreation Fund, the city did receive approximately $9,600 from the ONTAP program to do some additional cement work located around the new playground equipment. So included in here as well is to increase the revenue and also to increase the expenses for that particular program.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Fire Department Reserve Chief of Administration position.
Okay,
Right,
that's for
I'm
the
sorry.
fiscal 15 budget. We're gonna get to that
Okay, I'm
one.
sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's next year.
So the next page is the Public Works Fund, and again, this one is associated with a grant. This adjustment is increasing the revenue and the expenditures, and it's for the DASPID Safe Routes to School. And that project has been completed, so there won't be any additional, revenue and or expense on that particular, program or project. The next adjustment is on the Section 8 fund, and this is again just bringing the revenue in accordance with what was actually received for that particular program, and then reducing the expenses as well. The next fund is the drainage fund. A small adjustment for the Monterey Street project. We had originally adopted the budget with $5,000, and the project landed up costing right at $505,000. And the last page of the adjustment is for the wastewater fund, and this adjustment is again associated with grants. There were two grants, one from a prior fiscal year and one from this current fiscal year from the LGAP program, which is administered by the state. So this is recognizing the revenue and the associated expenses.
Okay, does anyone have any questions concerning this budget amendment? Thank you very much, Ms. Segura. I'd ask you to please vote your machines. Motion carries. Okay, the next is, are the budget amendments for the budget that we're working on, 2014-15.
Also included in your packet was the summary of the proposed amendments for the fiscal 14-15 budget that's up for adoption tonight. We did discuss this in detail at our last meeting, which would have been 2 weeks ago. There is one additional adjustment. Mr. Lewis had phoned me a couple of days ago and brought it to my attention that I had not included the Safe Routes to Schools for the Pesson School sidewalk project. So the third adjustment on this page is for the Public Works Fund, and you'll see where we're adding $250,000 worth of revenue from that particular project, and also increasing the associated expenses. So there won't be any change on the fund balance amounts that were previously reported, just recognizing the expense as well as the revenue. So you wanted to talk about the Chief of Administration position?
No, not really.
No? Okay, that's fine.
It
Any
was
other
removed.
questions?
Mr. Lewis, we removed it.
That's what this is doing, is removing it from the budget.
I do have
Oh,
a question.
you wanted to see?
Because we wanted to hire an additional firefighter.
One was in there, and then we talked about
Yeah, okay.
putting another, and then we said we stay with one and wait and see what happens.
Okay, correct. Thank you.
And the only other adjustment that wasn't on the sheet from last meeting, I added the Chief of Administration position, which is that first category. And all the way down at the bottom, Mr. Lewis, you had requested the drainage money in District 5. That's the last line. $356,990 is being added to the drainage fund. Any other questions?
Any questions? Okay, I'd ask you to please vote your machines. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, we already voted on another amendment, sorry. Okay, this is just going over the amendments, now we have to open the public hearing at this time for the budget. At this time, need a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion.
Second.
Is there any objection? This is to allow anyone in the audience to come forward and address any issues concerning the adoption of the 2014-15 budget. Okay, since there are no comments, I'd ask you to please, motion to close the public hearing. Motion by Mr. Begnaud, second by Mr. Lewis. Okay, the next agenda item is agenda item B. Madam Clerk?
An ordinance adopting a budget for the city of New Iberia for the fiscal year ending October 31st, 2015.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Merrill,
Second.
second by Mr. Begnaud. Is there any discussion?
I have a question.
Yes?
We are on B, huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I do have a question. And then I have a, Miss Segura, you mind? Because all the council members weren't here. I think it's an appropriate time to address it. We had two absent, and Mr. Jurek had company. When I asked the question about the 4% raise, please hold your horses, because I hear mumbling, and just be respectful. Then you'll get that back. But is this budget inclusive of the 4% or 2% that we had much discussion over? This particular.
This budget was included, this budget was prepared. The salary increases with respect to the employees, the fire department receives 2% in accordance with state statute. And the civil service and the unclassified employees, the amounts that were included is 4%.
Okay, so though the discussions went on, we have the 4% we're dealing with right now.
Yes, sir, the budgets were prepared, and they are, again, the budget as it's prepared is in accordance with statutes, and it does include the 4%.
Okay. Number one, I've heard the voices of you city employees who have come before. I believe I am the only elected official that sits here today that was an employee of the city of New Iberia. I work Parks and Recreation. I did too. You did too? Well, correct me. This was a full-time livelihood for me. Okay, I was full-time. And I know and understand what it was back then in the 90s to make, I believe I was making $5.35 an hour back then. I know what it is to make a little money. But we're finally trying to get our city in a better shape than we came and found it, in all fairness. What does that mean? We had to cut departments. People lost their jobs, lost their coverage, health care coverage. They lost things. So we could try to put this budget in a better shape than we found it in. I understand, I didn't catch the gentleman's name, but I understand you try medical conditions. I don't talk about my personal too much, where you paying $16,000 a month for medication. Thank God I had insurance that helped with that. I understand that. When my wage didn't go up, I still had to get those medicines I needed to continue to. I had to sacrifice. My family had to help. In 2011, I wasn't on the council then. I was at the school board, but sharing a little insight into what I've been doing. I'm not going to tell you what, but I've been doing some things as well. But I thank God I'm still here surviving, and here to talk about it. But I understand the needs of the employees, and I surely understand when the lower people on the totem end that truly can use it. But I understand too, on the higher end, they actually see. I know I said a budget meeting, the price of bread is steady going up. I understand that. I understand ham or whatever, eggs, all of that is going up. But I think the question I asked myself in 2011 when I didn't get an increase, when I was battling 14,000 for one medicine, 1,500 for one, and 500 for the other. I understand what that is, but I had a job. I had health care coverage. It didn't help me trying to figure a way to spend that kind of money, but I had a job. Still have that job. And I understand, but at this time, for me, when I ran for office, I said I would be fiscally responsible. Fiscally responsible. We're in much better shape. 2 years with this new, some of the new members on the council, some of the old on this council, than we were when we got into office. But I need to understand, and I want y'all to know, this is a reoccurring cost. I cannot undo what other people didn't do and have done that brought some of this hardship and the budgetary issues on. I cannot undo it. But I will support, as I said then, I will support a 2%, but I cannot in good conscience support a 4%. Now, one other thing I just want to add, because I said nothing that night, but when I was on the council previously, and I appreciate y'all giving me some latitude because I know my time has expired, but we did do a cost of living adjustment. And we did give, I can't remember what we initially gave as that adjustment, but we did that study and we did come back. I was here to vote on that, a 4% raise plus whatever we gave y'all. I don't recall, or the ones who were here back then, we did do that. I didn't correct it the other night, but I recalled it, and we did do that. But tonight, I really, in good conscience, though I understand, but again, I'm glad to have my job and be able to feed, put some food on my family's table, and have some health care coverage that I can benefit from. And I thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Merrill?
Yeah. I'm not gonna take too much time, but I'm gonna comment on it myself. We were in a situation where, revenues was bad, I hated to have people laid off around the Christmas holidays when it first happened, because I wasn't there, I wasn't in their shoes. I have worked jobs where I was making hourly wage. Fortunately, I'm not doing that now, but I still understand what it's like to do it. I have kids that's working hourly wage jobs. Unfortunately, I feel we are in a lot better position right now, and I really look at it to whereas I think we're gonna climb a little bit more than we are right now from what the changes that we've already made in the compliance department and other areas. So I'm okay with the 4%, and I was okay with it from the start when I first heard about it, because I look at the fact that at the time when we did do all the layoffs we did, the 2% that was already there, the people needed it, and I think they still need it. Cost of living right now, we're living in an economic age right now where the cost of living of what you make an hourly doesn't even triple the amount of what the cost of taking care of families are, medical expenses, all those things Mr. Lewis and the gentleman out there mentioned. Regardless of the situation or how the economy is, when I look at where we have come from 2 years ago to where we're at right now, I really think that it should be granted to the people that work for us. You know, I don't go out there and cut trees down. I don't cut grass. I don't do none of that. But I do appreciate the jobs that you guys do. You know, I've called Mr. Landry a bunch of times. He's sent people out to do different jobs in my district that certain people call me about. Regardless of the fact if the job doesn't get done, the people in my district, they don't look at you guys. They're looking at Mr. Merrill. Because I asked you to come do this, I come do that, or why y'all can't do it. A lot of times I've had to tell a lot of the people since we made these changes that we can't come out like we used to that quick because we're working shorthanded. We got a lot of employees that's trying to do a lot of jobs that we had a lot of other people to do. And you just have to be able to understand that we're gonna get to you at the time we can get to you, but it will get done. But I'm an advocate for hardworking people. I work hard myself. I can't really say what'll happen. I might be back on the hourly wage job 10 years from now. I don't know that. But I know one thing about it is I thank I thank you guys for the job that you do. I think you deserve it. And if I felt that we wasn't able to do it, I would say the same thing Mr. Lewis said. But I really think from listening to what's going on, what Kim has led us to believe, and what we have done so far, I feel or believe that we can afford to do it. And I'm looking at the economy to get better and for things to pick up where we can continue where we left off and maybe possibly in the near future hire some more people to take some of the load off of some of you guys. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mr. Swear?
I think we'll be in good shape whenever we can give the services back to the people like they had before, Mr. Merrill. 'Cause right now, we're picking up their garbage every other week right now. Every time we have 5 weeks in a month, it's 3 weeks. I get called on that every month. And that sweeper, if they pass around once a 3 months right now, is good. It used to be every week, streets would get swept. So, you know, y'all think we got problems now? If this tax doesn't pass in November, you're gonna see some real problems. And we don't start giving the people back their services, we're not gonna pass that tax. You know, I can understand they need money, but right now they have jobs. So at least they got something right now. But after a while, if that tax don't pass, they won't even have a job.
Might be funny.
Mr. Doran?
Mayor, can you keep some order in our chamber? We none acting up and acting out. We just ask the
We have
audience
order,
to be
Mr. Lewis. I
respectful.
don't think anybody's been disrespectful.
Well,
yes.
they
Mr.
distracted. Okay.
Well, I want to say that every year in the past that I've been on this council, I gave the 2% raise. And I believe it's needed. I believe it's due. And I will continue to support that. And I will support a 2% raise. But I got a question for Kimberly. Can I ask?
Sure.
Kimberly, when you gave us an estimate of the 4% raise, increase would cost us about $150,000.
Correct.
That did not include the fire department.
No, sir.
Included in that $150,000, was it the increase of the workers' comp or the retirement or anything? Because whenever you increase a salary, a lot of other increases are included in that. I know in our budget, we have it, but
Broken
is those numbers in that 150,000?
No, sir, that's the gross.
That's the growth. So we have a lot more cost than 150,000 with the 4%. Because you have retirement, what we pay, 20% now?
It'll be close to 20%. It's like 19.75%, from MERS. It's more than that for fire department.
But the fire, I mean, we kind of got some dedicated money. I'm not too concerned, but, you know, as much as the costs go up for the employees, it goes up for us also to continue to give those services. And what kind of surplus you projected for this budget if we adopted it with the 4%?
Surplus in which fund?
In the whole budget, when we adopt the budget. We can have a balanced budget,
12 million?
all right? No, we have a balanced budget, correct? But there's some surplus money?
Correct. Our budget is balanced. Some of them are budgeted, some of them are balanced with, prior reserves. So like in total, like looking, the way that, like general fund. General fund is presented with a $450,000 deficit. The majority of that, so some of it's already been adjusted out. We talked about that earlier with the chief of administration position. So that'll be reduced off of that deficit. The remainder, it was around 300 and something thousand. That's gonna come out of the fire reserve. The remaining portion on the general fund side was about $30,000 that we would have to use reserve money to balance off.
And are we doing that?
That's how this budget was prepared.
Okay.
It's approximately 30,000. So out of a whole, we have approximately $13 million worth of almost $14 million worth of expenses reported in the general fund, and we would only use about $30,000.
So if it would be a 2% raise,
Wait, let me just make sure something's clear. But our fund balance at the end is close to 2 million.
Correct. The fund balance.
Non-dedicated in the general fund, just the general fund, we have around $2 million in fund balance.
And if you recall from earlier this year, just through the course of the various budget meetings that we had, I had asked the council to amend the general fund, and because when we finished off fiscal 13, there was extra money that came back into fiscal 13. I had asked the council to amend the fiscal 14 budget to balance off that debt service fund, if y'all recall that. And at that time, I had anticipated that the fund balance would stay at about the same level, which would have been about $1.5 million. And now at the end of fiscal 14, we're gonna have approximately $2 million. So our fund balance has grown from $1.4 million or $1.5 million to $2 million in general fund.
because last year when we decided to give the 2% raise, the money came out the disaster fund.
Correct.
And we took money out of the disaster fund for other things like debt service, I think, over the past, right? So, the surplus that we have, every year, I don't want to happen in 2013. I was not here for that, where we didn't have the money, the city didn't have the money to give the 2%. I don't want that to happen. Because remember, the 4%, we married to that forever. I mean, the increase, we're gonna be responsible for next year too. And I wanna make sure, I'd rather everybody gets a little raise every year and put money aside to continue to give the insurance. We don't know what's gonna happen with the insurance every year, the way the rates are going up. But I wanna make sure they get the 2%. But the excess money is anyway, instead of taking it from the fund balance, can we have a dedicated monies for salaries like they do with the fire department? I know it's dedicated tax. Can we put money aside for that where we can't touch it and use it for the increase of salaries in the future?
Well, just a couple of things, come to mind with respect to that. The city already has a quarter cents tax that is dedicated to salaries and
That's not
benefits.
enough.
And so in addition to the fire's tax for salaries and benefits, there is one in the sales tax fund that is dedicated to salaries and benefits for all city departments, not just the fire department. In addition to that, there is one of the garbage taxes that is dedicated to garbage and recycling and those sorts of efforts. In addition to that, the remainder of what's left over can be spent on salaries. It's just that we don't have anything left over. And the same thing with respect to the quarter cent, or, we're using up all of that money with respect to salaries and benefits already. So to answer your question, if we do have remaining balances at the end, like a surplus at the end of the year, the council can come back and say, we would like to restrict this money within the reporting of the fund to provide for future salaries and benefits.
Because, we have, there's no capital outlay on, like, we need a street cleaner. I mean, we don't have money for that. We want to do the garbage pickup. We don't have money for that. We always are tight to give back the services to the community where they pay the taxes. People call me, as Mr. Swear said, every month is a long month about that grass being dead or whatever. And I have to listen to those complaints. Or when the street cleaners come and clean my street. That's something they see, and they deserve that service. I'm just trying to find a way that we can have money for things like that, not just for salaries and benefits. But I know this year the taxes came in pretty flat. What's gonna happen next year? I want to make sure I can come back to the employees and say, I want to give y'all a 2% again, or if the mayor suggests that we can be on board with that. I'm trying to find a way to save those funds instead of just saying we have a fund balance that we can pull it out of. And I was just wondering if that was possible.
Yes, we can definitely,
End of the
through
year.
council action, whether it be a resolution or an ordinance, I mean, y'all can set aside money through that action, and we can reserve that, and in the event that, some of it needs to be pulled out, we'd have to ask for permission to pull it out.
Because that is a concern, because if, we would approve a 2%, the savings that we're gonna have in this budget with the insurance, with the works and comp, with the, retirement, will make this budget look different than it is right now that we're gonna adopt, right?
Definitely.
So how would that work? How would we adopt a budget when right now we don't have the right figures? We can do that tonight?
Yeah. I mean, like, I'll have to do the calculations, because, I mean, it's obviously not just a quick calculation, because I'm
I
gonna have to,
understand.
every position, in the city would be, well, with the exception of the fire department, we'd have to be adjusted.
Right, okay.
But, and with respect to the salaries, they're reported in different funds. We have some salaries in the general fund, we have some in the parks fund, some in the public works, some in the wastewater fund. So they're spread out, so every fund would be impacted. So, with respect to that, y'all would have to provide specific direction as to, like tell me, go do this, in
So
order
those
to-
savings that you would create from if we decide to do anything can be put aside?
I wouldn't wanna do it in the same
Okay.
budget adoption ordinance, I
Okay.
would wanna handle it separately. So
Okay.
like if, y'all send me back with direction, to recalculate, on a different percentage, we can always come back and say that this was the difference on the number, and we can set that aside. Now, understand, with it being in the various funds, each fund would have its own
Oh, no,
set of
I
restriction.
understand.
Now, with respect to both parks and public works, because general fund subsidizes so much of parks and public works, it would probably be better just to keep it in the general fund as a restriction.
Okay, I just don't want it to be used up just because we are happy. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Right here.
Mr. Bagno?
Ms. Segura?
Yes, sir.
The 4% increase we're talking about is an increase of $150,000, is that correct?
Approximately.
Approximately 150, somewhere in that area. So if we're talking about a 2% increase, we're talking about
About 75?
75, let's say 100,000. If we put 100,000 that Mr. Dahl is talking about from the budget every year, we're talking about $100,000. We put that aside every year for the 2% increase next year, we'll be in pretty good shape is what I'm seeing.
What's more than that?
Well,
The-
just say.
the 2%,
No, because it's
yeah, it would be
4% now. If we
approximately
put 4%
But
next
then
year.
you have your benefit increase.
Well, that's, I'm allowing for that, 100,000 instead of 75. So we're looking, I'm just allowing, for points of discussion, okay.
And keep in mind
so-
too, when the budget is prepared, you have these vacant
Right.
positions,
Right.
too. So those
That-
percentage increases are based on those
Right, and if
positions
we don't
being
fill them,
vacant.
that-
And then if they're
okay.
not filled, most times they're not filled, on the very first day of the fiscal year. So you have some lag time, so that lands up not being spent in that particular fund as well.
Okay. I have a lot of confidence in you.
Thanks, Calvin.
I've been very pleased since you've been here. So let me start with this. Two years ago, we had to make some tough decisions, and we did. This council had to make some decisions, and we did. We started slashing the budget, had to let go some people. We're asking our employees to, to maintain the work that they give us right now. We still want the streets clean, like Mr. Swear said. We still want to cut the trees. We want to fix the roads. In the last 12 years, I think we've improved on our streets and sidewalks tremendously. I can't remember a time when, or really, if you think back just recently, had a hard rain. I know our public works were fixing sandbags for us up until 5, 6 o'clock, where some of the other city employees got to go home. In the administrator's office, we're down to 3 employees. Public Works is down 13 employees. Inspection, and I can go on. We've eliminated some positions, and we're working harder now than we have been in the past. That also means our department heads are working harder than they have in the past. And I appreciate the department heads because they've kept it going. Now, we're not perfect, believe me. Our services have diminished, and I think we're aware of that as council members. And we'd like to get those services back up. But the 2%, the 4% we're talking about is 2% that they would have gotten 2 years ago, and the 2% for this year. And if you look back at the cost of doing business in the last few years and the cost of goods, that 4% is not going to cover what their insurance increases have been to themselves, not the city, but to the individual employees. That 4% is not going to cover the increases that they've seen through all of the purchases they've had. I'm getting the feeling here that most of my constituents are not in favor of the 4%, but I'm firmly believe that the 4% is warranted, and I'm standing by that.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
I'll go. We'll take
Okay, Ms. Roban?
Say a couple of things. I guess I'm considered the newest person of the little girl, as they call me. But I have done a lot of work, and I just want to go back on just my personal path with this issue, because it's been, I know it, you know, it's a very important issue. Y'all are what make the machine work at the end of the day. And I've paid attention to it since I decided to run for office. I started going to every meeting I could go to. When the 2% was waived 2 years ago, that was right before I got elected. And I've done my research, and from what I've gathered, that happened when the mayor went to a civil service meeting, presented her case, said she, you know, the city wasn't in the shape to give it, and basically the board agreed to suspend it, not waive it, to suspend it until she felt she had the funds necessary to make it up. That's an agreement they made there. The board didn't, like I said, it's an agreement. They didn't contest it. They didn't send a resolution back. The council that year did not vote on that one way or the other. So it was strictly something done outside of our council. Then I got elected. Then last year, I started going to the civil service meetings. We were still in a bond. We were still cutting. That's when we consolidated the compliance with the planning and zoning. We had to let the people go. And the mayor went to the meeting, and she presented again that she didn't feel like the city was gonna have the money to give it again. And I was at that meeting, and I got up and I took the time to speak, and I said that I didn't know what the council would do, but that I was gonna do anything I could to try to talk to them and see what we could do, even if that meant cutting my own personal money that I get from the city in order to give y'all the 2%, because it is a rule and y'all are supposed to get it every year. It is a rule. Somewhere in the next week or so, the mayor went through the budget. She found the money out of the disaster fund, not the general fund, not extra money, out of the disaster fund, money that we're supposed to be saving for a disaster. And we gave the 2% just to civil service. Department heads did not get 2% last year. Then we're faced with this year. The hardest thing I have with what to do this year, we have to give y'all the 2%. It's a rule. We're supposed to give it. That year, things could have been done differently, but I wasn't there, so I'm not going to judge or make any comment on that. But it's a rule that we have to give it to y'all that year. Now, I know this rule goes way back. I've heard different things. It came into effect because a benefit was taken away. Came into effect just to protect y'all. But the rule is that no matter what, every year, the Civil Service Board gets a minimum of 2%. Regardless if cost of living is negative that year, y'all still are entitled. You'll get 2% regardless. Now we fast forward and we're at this year. You know, we have this budget, and it's just to put your whole head around it and grasp it, and it's like it's like a good novel, but not, because the more you read it, the more you get into it. But it's the hardest thing for me is that on one page we have that we're including a 4% for the entire city. But then the last sentence in the budget message, the last sentence says, continuing on this pace, fund balance reserves will only last approximately 2 years. That's a strong statement, and that's not something I wrote. And we can't predict what that year number 3 is gonna be. But anything that we do salary-wise for anybody in this city as an increase is gonna be reoccurring every year. Like we said, 150,000, 151,000, but that's not including the benefits. That goes up, and then we carry that 150. Let's make it a little bit over 200 with all the benefits we got to increase. So then next year, that goes up again with the next 2% that we give you guys, and so then that's next year it's 400,000 out the budget. Every year it tax on the increases. It's an incurring expense because it rolls over because you're gonna add 2% to it to the next year.
It's only go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, you
No, you're on the road.
you
Go
got
ahead.
sound
Go ahead.
language going on. I wouldn't sound anybody when they were talking. That's just really that's the hard part for me when and I know in 2 years it doesn't matter who you are if you're up here. You're not guaranteed that some people up here are going to be termed out. So regardless, they're not going to be here for that 3rd year. Some of us, like myself, I'll be at the end of my first term, and I'll have the option to go for another term. But I don't believe we should make decisions on whether I'm not going to be here in 2 years, so it doesn't matter, or I'm going to run another term, so let me give certain people what I think they want to help me out for that next term. I don't believe that way. Or so what I'm gonna do next. I believe that you do what you can do and you be fair. And it's a really, really hard decision. And to be honest, as of this moment, this is the hardest decision I think I'm gonna have made so far since I've been elected. And it's just and then we're not only faced with civil service, everybody else. Y'all are. We have a rule to give you 2% a year. The department heads and everybody else, there is no rule.
We follow the same rules as civil service.
But it's not a rule. It's not a rule. And I've looked back on the past 10 years, and this city has been, from what I've looked at, everything has been very good to the employees. There were some years where extra was given, and I believe it was warranted. I know a lot has happened in the past, 10 years with expenses and cost of living. So it's just really, really complicated. But like I've always said, my decisions are not personal. I think about these decisions long and hard. I wish that 2 years ago y'all would have gotten it because it was a rule, and I feel you should have. And we're just gonna go from there. We're gonna see what motions go on the floor, and I want everybody to know that I've thought about this long and hard, and I do not appreciate the sarcasm of some members up here when I was professional when others were speaking. I will put that on notice because I've looked at this for a very long time. Like I said, it is not personal. And when I got into my job that I'm in now, it's like half a government job, the way we're, but I walked in that year and we were cutting salaries. And in my job, not here, in my job, we were cutting salaries. And luckily no one left, but that's just the nature of things. But when you look at this last sentence, continue on this pace, fund balance reserves will only last approximately 2 years. What kind of spot does that put you in when it's like, well, what is year 3 going to be?
Mr. Dora wants to comment.
Natalie, if I could explain, with respect to that particular paragraph in the budget message, that is specifically on the sales tax fund. That whole entire paragraph is only on the sales tax fund. That is not the city's general fund. The city's general fund is expected to have an unreserved fund balance of $2 million at the end of fiscal 14, and it's about the same thing. It's like $1,960,000 at the end of fiscal 15. So like in no way can it be construed that the city's unrestricted general fund is expected to have, you know, a huge deficit, that fund balance is not gonna last. You know, we have only I wanna say it's either $32,000 or $36,000 worth of a deficit with respect to the city's general fund portion. This entire paragraph is with respect to the sales tax fund. And if you recall, we had, at the first budget meeting, we discussed that particular fund at length and how we have a 1 cent tax as well as a quarter-cent tax. The 1 cent tax is for police, fire, and capital projects, and how that particular tax.
Not you. There's side comments being made that I do not appreciate by members who do not even read their stuff. But anyways, I'm sorry.
So that 1 cent tax as well as the quarter-cent sales tax for citywide salaries and benefits, not for the fire department. So those two taxes are in that particular fund. This paragraph is specifically for that sales tax fund. Okay.
Mr. Swear?
I'd like to ask you a question, Mayor. If we have so much money in our budget that we can operate this city right now, did you not go to Baton Rouge and then try to get a ruling that we could buy a street sweeper with mosquito control money?
I asked that for an Attorney General's opinion,
Okay.
and why not? We use it to
yeah.
keep the drains clean.
Well, why not just take it out of the general fund, Mayor, if you got so much
Well,
money?
you know what, Mr. Swear, let me answer the question. Because we have a large fund balance in the drainage fund, and would have made sense
Yeah,
to
'cause
buy.
you're not doing drainage.
Mr. Swear, would you please give me a chance to have enough respect to let me finish speaking?
Go ahead, Mayor.
We have a large fund balance in the drainage fund, and it would have made sense if it was allowable to buy the street sweeper with the drainage fund, because that fund balance was so high. But you know what? I think before the year's over, if we need to buy a street sweeper, we will be able to buy one. We have been very conservative with this budget. I want everyone to know, we have been very conservative with this budget. We had more money at the end of the year when we completed this budget than we had anticipated in last year's budget. And the bottom line is, and let me finish, Mr.
Go ahead,
Swear,
ma'am.
you are the rudest
Go ahead,
person.
I'm not gonna interrupt you.
The bottom line is that this city needs to bring in more money, and I've said it over and over again. It's not that we're overspending, it's that we don't bring in enough money. And what Ms. Segura is alluding to is the sales tax revenues that we have. We have 1 cent sales tax, that's for fire, police, and for capital projects. Well, almost that whole sales tax fund is being used for the police department. Almost all of the sales tax fund for salaries is being used for the fire department. So the bottom line is that we're at a point right now, we're at a crossroads where a decision has to be made as to whether or not this council wants to go to the citizens and ask for additional funding. Because in the last 10 years, we have not increased our funds, and everything's increased. Our revenue has not increased to keep pace with the cost of doing business. And that's where we are today. And I want to talk a little bit about the last couple of years, because there have been some stones that have been thrown at me.
It hasn't been no stones.
I'm speaking, Mr. Lewis.
Well,
If the
you-
shoe
you
fits,
jumped
wear
from-
it.
Well, I wasn't here wearing it.
Mr. Lewis, I have the
I wasn't here
floor.
wearing it.
What has happened is, over the last few years, we just have not brought in enough revenue to continue to cover the increased expenses that the city has had throughout the board, with the sheriff's contract, with the fire department. Every department has increased.
After-school program.
Mr. Swear, let me speak.
Well, name everything, man.
Every program, every department has increased. And when we made cuts, we only eliminated, and it was unfortunate, we eliminated about 9 positions that people were in those positions. The rest of the positions were eliminated through attrition. You know, we just eliminated vacant positions. We've tightened our budget. You know, the employees have worked harder. We have the less number of employees. Everybody's taken on additional duties. And yes, I did make a commitment to the Civil Service Board in 2012-13 that, you know, and probably if we could have squeaked by and given them the 2%, but it would have really put a strain on our budget. I asked them to please allow us to suspend the 2%, and when we had the money, we would come back to the board, and with council approval, of course, and give the 4%. I feel confident. I think we have a CPA that is one of the most experienced in government accounting. She has done a tremendous job for the city. And I asked her when she was preparing the budget if she felt that we could afford to put the 4% in, to please include it. And we believe that we can afford to put the 4% in. Now, I'm going to tell you, no matter what you do, if you don't go to the citizens and ask for sales tax revenue, an increase, we're going to continue for, I have 2 years left, and I'd like to leave this city in good shape. But you're going to continue into the future just struggling from year to year because we don't bring in enough revenue every year to cover our expenses. And it's not fair to ask the employees that work day to day to work and not give them what's due them. And that 4% is due to them. We have plenty of commitments that were made before this council was here. You know, we have contracts and commitments that you have to abide with that were made long before you were on this council. And this is one of the commitments that were made. And, you know, I think we've had government consultants come in, a third party that had no bias in looking at the budget, and they told us what we needed to do. You've already taken care of increasing the sewer user fee. They told us we needed to at least ask for a 0.5-cent sales tax increase. And we need to do that. I mean, it's evident that over the years, our sales tax has been flat, and we need additional revenue to keep pace with the cost of doing business. But it's not, we shouldn't take it out on our employees. They're the backbone of the city. And if we don't have somebody to run the street sweeper, then the streets are not going to get cleaned. And I think that we need to pay our employees what's due them. I feel comfortable with doing it, but I think this council has a responsibility to look at the revenue and possibly go to the public and ask them for a sales tax. You know, when you look around, the parish has had the TIF, you know, they've done things to bring in more money. But this council has never asked the citizens for more money, and it's time for us to ask them for more money to cover the expenses that we have.
I'll tell you one reason, Mayor, why I want to ask this people to give you more money. Because you don't want to put us in a hole that we in
Mr.
this
Swear,
administration.
wait,
And the people getting tired.
I want to make this perfectly clear to you and everybody that's listening, that I have never spent a penny of the
No, ma'am.
city's
Not you.
money without the city
Talking about
council's
the operation
approval.
of the city, Mayor.
The operation of the city,
The
and the
operation of the
council
city.
approves the budget, Mr. Swear.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what, I'm gonna ask you, there's a motion
Excuse
on
me.
the floor.
Excuse me.
Mr. Rack, Mr. Rack?
I'm so full right now, I just don't know what to do. My heart goes out to the employees. Definitely. It do. We've been good to y'all. We have. I want to ask a question. Is this tax don't pass? What will happen?
The tax will pass.
Yep,
The
no,
millage.
no.
We keep
The
saying
millage,
tax.
the
We keep saying
millage, the millage
Millage.
on the board. Because what I'm hearing from the people, they're not voting for it.
Well, I
We
can't-
better be very careful. I'm saying this, Mayor, I'm being truthful. I heard we took money out of the disaster fund. I heard, when we give the raise, the disability fund gonna go up, retirement, insurance, workman comp. I'm hearing all of this. Right now, I really wish we could give the, tax. You said Kimberly could do this, but Kimberly is not a superwoman. She could pull money out of anywhere that's not there. She cannot do it. I'm worried about it after the 2 years. I really am worried about it. I'm not gonna be here, no, but I hope to be living and still in this city. And if a disaster take place right now and we pulling money out of it, well, what would happen, Kimberly?
The money is not being pulled out of the disaster.
I heard say they
Not
took
this
some
year,
money.
last year.
Last year. Okay, what happened?
Last
Has
year's-
it been replaced?
No, ma'am.
What do we have left?
Last
there?
year, I think it was approximately 50,000 that was pulled out of the disaster fund. I don't remember the amount, Mr. Rack, I'm sorry.
Okay?
7,
'Cause I'm trembling, and I'm hearing we ask them to take money out of mosquito control. If we could give them the raise, we should give it. If we can't, if we give the raise and we have to lay off like we did around the house, I'm saying if, a lot of if been said here tonight. Let me say, because I don't want nobody disciplining. Please don't do it. If, because I think this is a council meeting, the council got a right to express themselves. But right now, I'm limited because I'm really emotional right now. I feel for the people because I have been an hourly worker, the head of my house, where I had to take on 8 extra jobs to make ends meet. I'm gonna let you know now I'm retired and I'm enjoying the fruit of my labor. It was hard, and maybe that's why I'm suffering so much right now, hurting and everything. But listen, we have been good to y'all, we have. And I hope we can continue on. Like some say we promised a 4% raise, 2%, now 2%, now it got to be 4%. What's gonna happen if we give it and we have to start laying off people unmerciful? What would happen? The city would not run. We took the job to cut trees, to sweep the street, which mine gets swept maybe once every 3 months. My sidewalk, I gotta cry and fall down to get the grass and thing cut. Really, it's the truth. Go on Landry Drive, they cut the grass like they got trees growing every 2-3 feet. I had to call them to recut the grass in my district. You know, I'm tired, people. I'm one that don't ask for much. I gave up my capital outlay to do sewer in different people places. I did it. I'm waiting on the Armico Canal. I'm waiting on different things. And I don't want to hear nothing no more about the Armico Canal, because that's like for the last 3 years, that's all it's been. I hope it get done. But I'm saying this to say that. We got to make decisions. I've heard cackling, yes, I've heard it. I heard remarks, I've heard it. And no order is put with certain people talk. When certain people is talking, I think they are council members. They represent their district, their constituent, and the city. They need to finish. They need to finish, because 2-3 times I done forgot what I had to say. You know, I'm making notes. But I'm saying to the employee of this city, we care about y'all. We do. When you buy a loaf of bread, I buy one too. It's just as how it goes. Everything have went up. Even the 2% raise is not. How will it help you? It's gonna be a penny here, a penny there. I'm used to pulling penny, scratching penny. Thank God I'm retired by myself, because I couldn't make it if I had children. Really, I couldn't. I'm sick. I've been sick. But by the grace of God, I have 3 hospitalizations. By not knowing what I'm doing, I paid through the school system. So I'm telling you, it's not easy, people. We got to cut corners, just like you have to cut corners in your house. This is a city, and this city got to run. It can't run today, and we don't know what we're going to have tomorrow. We have to procrastinate and make sure that next year this going to work. Y'all follow what I'm saying? Giving y'all a 4% raise right now, we got to go lay people off. How would y'all feel? You know, I'm saying it's the truth. We did it around the holidays. They cut off people, laid people off that I cried, and some people came to my house and they cried with me. But nothing I could do, nothing I did to deserve it. But it happened. And I'm telling you, it could happen again. Let's stop cackling and laughing. We got big decisions to make. We going home not happy about what we did or not going to do or going to do. We going home and we still going to worry about y'all because we got tomorrows. I listened to this young lady. She just got here. She got all this thrown up on her. She trying to run again, but I'm never running again. Never. For no kind of position. It have been too much on me the last 4 years. I'm telling you. It have. And I've shared it with my council member. I really did not want to run. My nephew begged me 4 more years so he could run. But I'm telling y'all, I hurt for y'all. Right now, y'all may laugh and make fun. I am sitting here hurting for y'all. This is not a decision that we making and we like it. And this is not somebody else to say, yeah, we got the money, we got this, we could do this, we could do that, we could do that. We got to sit here and look at these books and see what tomorrow's gonna bring. And I know the time is running out, but I done sit here and listen to everybody.
I'm not talking to you, Cynthia.
And we all need to sit here and listen, because this is a decision we got to make that
You're
pays
moaning.
this city. And I love the city, and I intend to stay here.
You moaning.
Mr. Lewis.
Amen.
I'd like to say something to make sure it's clarified. All of the increase for the 4% is in the budget, and so is
You.
so are all of the increases for retirement, everything else has been included in this budget. In fact, we think we've charged more for retirement than we think it will be. We're hoping, we've put in an additional 1% across the board. And I've called MERS, and we don't even know if we'll have any increases in retirement this year.
From the 19 to the 20?
Right, we went up, right,
Right.
but I talked to them at MERS, and they're hoping that they won't
It might
increase
stay
at
at
all.
19.
Right, so, I mean, we have like Kimberly said, she's been very conservative in the fact that, she's over accounted for expenditures, and she's accounted lower than what she thinks revenue will be, so, I have no intentions of laying off anyone, and I wanna make it clear.
You don't know that,
We
Mayor.
only laid off, if y'all would just let me speak, Mr. Swear, without interrupting.
Well, Mayor, give up the gavel then. You're supposed to give up
I
the chair
will
when
give
you
up.
wanna
I'm
speak.
giving
You've been doing more
information.
speaking tonight than anybody else.
Be quiet, please. Also, we have no intentions of laying anyone off, and we laid off 9 people, which is, it's unfortunate. It broke my heart to lay people off. The rest of the positions were removed through attrition. And, 9 people are what we laid off in 2 years, and we've done a good job of cutting but, I feel very confident with the budget today, the way it is.
Yeah, I
Mr.
just
Dahl?
want to make a comment. Owning my own business, giving a raise or giving 2% is just part of the cost. Just with the municipal civil service, you're looking probably about, I think, $250,000 just for vacation days and sick days a year.
You can't account for that like that.
Well, yeah, you can, because it's a benefit that we paying
It's
for,
gonna
Mayor.
cost you, Mayor.
And then you're talking about 40-something days a year. If everyone takes their days off, that's what they get. So it's more than just the raise of the hourly, it's other stuff. Mayor,
Time
well, I
off
guess
does not, time
it doesn't
off
cost
does
us?
not accumulate to
Mayor,
money.
Mayor,
yes, it does. You're paying for people not to do
Let
things.
Mr. Dahl explain that.
I mean, I'm just saying, it's more than the cost than just the 150,000. That's what I'm trying to say.
I heard that.
That,
Okay,
but that's
Mr.
included in their
Bagno,
salary.
That's part of their.
That's part of their salary.
It's
Whether they
not
work
part of that
52 weeks,
150,000.
yes, it is. If they work
It
52
is.
weeks a year and they take 5 days off, they're still getting paid as if they were working that week. It doesn't matter.
It's
They're still getting
unproductive
paid.
hours.
Unproductive hours, man. Like when you get 23 holidays a year, you get production out
You
of
know
that?
what, y'all have made up your
included in-
minds.
that's included in
You've
their
made up your minds. There's a motion.
Can we
and a-
vote?
Yes, there's a motion and a second on the floor. Their minds are made up, so.
Mayor.
Vote on the budget with the 4% included.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna offer a substitute motion with the following amendment of 2%.
So move.
A motion by Mr. Lewis to decrease from the 4% to the 2%, and it's been seconded by Mr. Swear.
But we're going across the board?
Across the board.
Please vote your machines.
They're going across the
They
board.
already been discussed all this. Motion carries.
Okay. Did we vote on,
Wait,
did we vote on this? Is that voting on this?
Go find another one.
It's amending the budget.
Amending the budget, so we don't have to vote on the budget now.
include
It's
only-
included in there. Okay.
That was
we're
it,
good.
the 2% across the board.
Find another.
Okay, the next agenda item is, agenda item 10C. Madam Clerk?
An ordinance levying certain taxes, appropriating the funds necessary to defray the expenses and liabilities of the city for the year 24-15, based upon the budget expenses adopted by the mayor and the board of trustees of said city, and providing for the collection of the collected by the city of New Iberia for the year 2014-2015.
And this is basically just appropriating the funds for the budget. Oh, you have to clear it,
That
We need a motion, Mr. Lewis, and second by Mr. Bagno. And if you just vote your machines, it's appropriating the funds for the budget.
You want?
It's just appropriating the funds for the budget and collecting the tax. Motion carries unanimously. The next agenda item,
The amendment that we did, that would become back as
No,
Well, the
and we
budget's
approve
been
the budget.
amended by two, and she's gonna have to correct the budget.
a, so we have to, get the amendments.
no.
all
No, we don't-
right? No?
That's it.
She is going
Okay.
to correct the budget and give you a corrected budget
Okay.
with the
They
salary
got it.
changes.
Thank you.
The next is agenda item 11. It's approval of municipal civil service structure and increase. Motion, it's the 2% that we do every
moved.
year. A motion by Mr. Doyle,
Second.
second by Mr.
Unanimous
Swear.
second.
Swear. Please vote your machines. Motion carries unanimously. If I could quickly make the announcements, I want to remind everyone, and people who are watching, please get out and vote, and please vote for the millage. It's a renewal for Public Works, and Halloween trick-or-treat will be between the hours of 6 to 8 on Friday, October 31st, 2014. City Council meeting on November 4th has been canceled because of the election. And the festival, New Iberia Spanish Festival, will be held on November 4th through the 16th.
14.
I'm sorry, thank you, 14th through the 16th. Parks and Recreation Department will be hosting a haunted house at the Emery Wing Lewis Pavilion in West End Park from 6 to 9. Motion to adjourn.
One question, is that to be charged? Someone,
Are they
Doyle
charging,
and who? Lewis.
are they charging for the, haunted house?
Some, one
somebody call them.
little thing.